Hello, I hope you had a good Christmas and a happy new year, and that so far the year is going okay for you. Well, this is the first of the videos which I'll be putting out every Monday, and I'll be showing you what I do in the garden and how I do it, and also how I try to be as self-sufficient as possible. Doesn't always work, but we can give it a try. So let's talk about self-sufficiency a bit. What is self-sufficiency? Well, it's trying to be as self-sufficient as you can, not as you see people saying, oh, totally off grid. That is very hard work, and it's basically going backwards. Why do we want to go backwards? We don't, but what we want to do is do things like grow our own food. That's an easy one. If you've got a garden, even if you've only got a balcony, you can grow in containers. So we can, become self-sufficient in some way. It doesn't mean you have to become fully self-sufficient, but what it means is that you are trying to be as self-sufficient as possible. Now, how do we do that? Well, we can look at what we do. So the first is, we've all got lots of electrical gadgets. I'm talking to you on one of them. We've got Wi-Fi, we've got the internet that we use all the time. Now, obviously, Wi-Fi, the internet has become a big thing in our lives. Some people are never off their phones. How many times do you see people walking down the street, they're on their phone, they're nearly knocking into people, they're nearly walking into lampposts even. But what we can do is this: we can maximise the use of everything. The internet, we can gain knowledge from the internet, which is a great thing, having knowledge. Now, with self-sufficiency, as I said, it's about being as self-sufficient as you can, as you want to. So, take power. Well, there's things like wind turbines, there's things like solar panels, and there's geothermal. But I'm not here to talk about those because there's so many experts out there that can tell you far better than I can about those. What I'm talking about is recycling. This is how I do it. I keep containers, suitable containers for sowing seeds in. I keep them for potting on the seedlings. I use them for storage. I use them to put food items in for the freezer or for the fridge to keep them safe in the fridge and that. Glass jars, another great one. With glass jars, there's so many uses you can put them to, from storage for small knickknacks and items to storing screws and nails, etc. And obviously the big one for preserving. Glass jars to buy for preserving are quite expensive. They're not that overly cheap. So suitable glass jars for preserving, I tend to keep. As long as you sterilise them, they're no problem at all. You can use them, and you can buy, if it's a screw top, you can normally buy new lids. Just check the size of the lids you can buy to the size of the glass jars you're going to keep for preserving, so you've got the right thing. And I do recommend new lids on most of them. There's so many YouTube channels out there that talk about recycling, and yes, there are some good ones out there. There are many that show you things which, as a normal person, stand-up, you can't actually achieve. I wish we all could, because that would make a much better planet for all of us. So we reuse, we recycle, we repurpose. That is recycling. So how do we go about growing our own food? Well, look at the space you've got. If you've got allotment, no problem. If you've got a garden, see how much space you can free up. Or do like I do, which is cottage style garden, where you're putting the veg in amongst the flowers, in amongst the ornamentals. Even if it's only a small portion of what you use in a year, you'll be surprised how much you can grow and also how much you can save. You can save quite a bit of money by growing a lot of your own food. Also, that food, if you're not spraying it with pesticides, that food is organic. Now just think, a nice cabbage, a nice cauliflower, some leeks, some onions that haven't been sprayed. Go to the shop, unless it says organic, it's not organic. But then when you do see the organic, what's the price? Price is normally premium. So yes, it's much cheaper to have a £2.60 packet of seed that'll produce maybe anything from 20 up to 250, in some packets even more. Now you don't obviously grow them all at once, you can grow in succession. So succession means you grow, you sow so many seeds this week, then next week sow a few more, and the following week sow a few more, and do that until you come to the end of its sowing season. The sowing season is on the back of the packet. It tells you when to start sowing and when to finish. You can't go wrong. So okay, so we've now assessed what we've got in the garden where we can grow, or in the allotment, on the balcony. Well, once we've assessed how much room we've got, you now think to yourself, okay, I've got plenty of space, or I've got no space. Okay, there's a solution to no space: containers. Growing containers. You'd be surprised the amount of veg, even flowers, etc. you can grow in a container. For potatoes, I use potato bags. And the thing is with potato bags, you don't have to use them just for potatoes. They've got a nice depth, so you can grow carrots in them. Why not? Bit of, some compost, some sand mixed in, just normal sharp sand will do. Or you can use soft sand, whichever. I prefer to use sharp sand, it's better draining, keeps the carrots. With soft sand, builder sand, it tends to make it too wet. But I know people that use and swear by builder sand. And you get a much better carrot. Because of the depth, the carrot can go down deeper and therefore is longer. Even parsnips. Parsnips are great grown in grow bags. So as I say, I use them for potatoes, for parsnips, for carrots, anything which has got a long veg. And then don't forget, once you've harvested, you don't need to throw that compost away. If you want, you can spread it on your vegetable patches or in the garden in general, or just refresh it a bit. Get some multi-fertilizer and mix in with it. Get a bag of compost and just mix it all together a bit to refresh it. Personally, I don't like using man-made fertilizers. I would prefer to use blood, fish and bone meal. It's a bit more natural. Yes, okay, it's man-made, but it's more natural. It's not chemical. It's not so chemically based. So it's more organic. Now, when it comes to organic, this is a big subject. If we grow our own and we're not using preservatives, we're not using herbicides to keep the weeds down, then it's organic. To me, it's the non-use of chemicals. If we're using compost, yes, okay, there may be some chemicals mixed in with the compost, but it's not the same as when it's grown on a farm. Now on a farm, they have to spray it and spray it. They spray it for herbicides to keep the weeds down in the fields. Trying to hand weed or trying to mechanically weed in a field is quite difficult. Also, to keep it at its best and give it to us at its best, it's sprayed with pesticides. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't like pesticides. Not only do they contaminate into us, but they also the death knell for biodiversity. There are some selective out there, but most of them are fairly general in their use. So if you spray for one thing, not only are you killing that pest, but you can be killing the ladybirds that eat the aphids. You can be killing the bees that pollinate the plants. You can be killing the predatory insects, the predatory flies, the bees are a big thing in my book. You will kill the wasps. Now, yes, we all don't like wasps. I don't like wasps because I'm allergic to them, but I live with them. This year, or last year, 23, I had a nest above the back door. Did they bother me? No. Did I get stung? No. How many queens did hatch out of that nest over the winter? I would say most probably several hundred. In the kitchen, because there was right out the back door, if I left the back door open, I'd have queens in the kitchen, and I dispatched about 40 over the course of 2 months in the autumn. So, but if you don't disturb them, they're fine. They're not going to sting you. Don't be frightened of them. Don't sort of do all this, because that really gets them going and really makes them mad. They are a great predator of especially non-beneficial insects. So live with them if you can. When we grow organically, we're looking the best ways of growing things. So, as I say, I grow cottage garden in amongst all the flowers and the ornamentals. It's a better diversity of insect life around them. It's not a monoculture. A monoculture is when you grow one crop in a row after row after row, or you grow all your different veg in one plot. A magnet for all the pests you can think of in my book. So I like to, yes, grow in amongst the flowers and the ornamentals. Yes, there are things like insect covers and such you can put over your crops, but that's cost. Now, if you want to be as self-sufficient as possible, that means keeping the cost as low as possible. And to do that, then yes, grow in what you find is the best way for pest control. It's a subject which is vast. So I'll leave that subject here, and we'll talk about the garden and such in general. Now, if you grow the veg you want, just grow the veg you're going to eat. It's no use growing veg which you may only eat once a year, and it sits in the ground there taking up space forever. So grow the veg that you eat the most. Make a shopping list of what veg you buy throughout the year, and then look at the seeds, look at the growing space. The seed packets will show you the growing space. Even if you don't have a lot of space, there are lots of veg you can grow. There's small varieties, there's dwarf varieties of a vast array of vegetables. Look at some of the nurseries that grow seeds. Fothergills, D.T. Browns, Marshalls. Look at their online catalogues. It will tell you how tall they grow in that normally. So choose ones that suit your garden. If you haven't got the space, grow the dwarfing or the bush varieties. Bush varieties are great, especially when it comes to courgettes. If you grow the bush varieties of courgettes, they will produce just as many courgettes as a non-bush variety, I find. But with a non-bush variety, they sprawl all over the place. So if I do grow them, I tend to grow them upwards. You're utilising the space above, the same as you do with runner beans, or even, you know, cucumbers. You know, there again, cucumbers go up. So if a plant can go up, let it grow upwards, trail it upwards. It doesn't take much to do that. Some canes, some twine. Use garden twine, the sessile type. Don't use that horrible, you know, green plasticky nylon stuff. It's going to be in your soil for years and years, in fact decades to come. Whereas a soft garden twine, it's a natural twine. The birds will pick any offcuts. If you leave any offcuts, make it not too big. You don't want to wrap it around the bird, but they will pick up the offcuts, take it and use it on their nests. It's great. So you're also helping the birds in that respect. When I take any of the twine off of a plant, I tend to cut it into 2-inch sections, drop it on the floor. It rots back into the soil, so therefore it's like a chop and drop. But as I say, the birds will take it, mice will take it, and they'll use it for their nests. It's got a whole 100, you know, uses for wildlife. Look at the veg you grow. Now, as I say, when it comes to potatoes, if you haven't got the space for potatoes, don't worry. Potatoes are fairly cheap enough in the supermarkets. Grow something which you would buy, which is too expensive. Now, courgettes is often quoted as one, purely on the basis that yes, courgettes are a bit expensive, but when you grow your own, one packet of seed can grow many plants. One plant can give you many courgettes, to the point where at the end of the day you're thinking, oh God, I don't want to see another courgette. Okay, let them grow that bit bigger. Use them as a marrow. Roast them in the oven. Stuffed marrows. Beautiful, you can't beat. So there's lots of different plants out there, veg out there that you can grow in a small garden with just a little bit of research on some of the seed producer sites. You can pick the veg which is going to suit you. Succession growing. That means growing so much this week. I tend to put so many seeds in trays or pots if I'm going to keep them in the pots, like herbs. And then a fortnight later, I'll grow a few more. Now, but when you sow the seed, just because you've opened the packet, you may have 250, even more seeds in that packet. Do you want to grow them all at once? Are you a farm? No. Even an allotment would have a job growing that many seeds, that many plants. If they all come to seedlings and grow to fruition, even an allotment has a job growing that many. And if they did, there wouldn't be much room for anything else. It's well worth doing by growing your own veg. As I say, succession growing, you can grow right the way through. On the back of the packet, it will tell you, or show you, the sowing season. So some you've got 3-4 months, others you can grow and sow seeds all year round. So you have a choice. It depends on what veg you're growing. Another way we can be self-sufficient is in seed. If we grow heritage varieties, we can save seed. It's not as hard as it seems. Make sure that you leave them plenty of time to mature. Take beans, runner beans, peas. The pods will go hard, crispy. You can tell when they're ready. And so depod them, lay them out so they'll, you can make sure they're fully dry, and then put them into envelopes or recycle paper bags. Great recycling. Mark them up, make sure you mark them up. Keep the seed packet which they came from, or at least keep a list of what variety and that they were. Then mark up the seeds on the packet or on the envelope, the paper bag as to what type of seed they were. Broad bean, aqua dulce. Lovely. No problem at all. You can easily find out, as long as you've got the seed marked up with what type of veg it is, and if possible, the name of that veg, aqua dulce in the case of broad bean, which is what I grow, then it's easy to find out the sowing season. And over time, you'll get used to it. You'll suddenly think, time for me to grow some broad beans. I'll put some in this month. Now I grow, so I sow once a month. I don't sow every other week. So there is this succession sowing where you grow, or I should say you sow, once every other week or once a month. It's down to you as how much you want to grow, how much space you've got, and just how much you want to eat, or you want to, if it's freezable, you want to freeze or store. With storage, it doesn't always have to be a freezer. Take parsnips, carrots. If you've got a suitable container, it must be light free. It mustn't have any light going into it, so it needs to be a dark container. If it's a plastic storage box, then what I tend to do is put in sharp sand, and I put inch or so of sharp sand on the bottom, lay the carrots or the parsnips out so they don't touch each other. Put another layer of sand on the top, 2 inches is even better. Do the same again. Now, just because it's carrots or parsnips put in, if you've got room, you don't just have to stick to carrots or parsnips in there. As long as they're in layers, you can divide the box in half. So half of the box has got the layers is all carrots. The other half is all parsnips. With the lid, put just a couple of little air holes in the top so that it can breathe. It doesn't sweat inside. Put it somewhere cool, out of the way, preferably in the dark, under the stairs, if it, as long as it's cool enough. Even if you've got a pest-free shed, or you can put it off the ground where the rodents can't get to it. I know that can be very difficult there, especially with mice and such. They can seem to be able to climb straight up, but it's feasible. I could say we could use traps for rodents. That might offend quite a few of you because we're trying to grow for biodiversity. But as I've said, with insects, we've got natural predators. With rodents, not all cats like catching rodents. I've seen cats look at a mouse and run away, and many cats will look at a rat and definitely run away. So yes, there are times when we need to use traps. I don't advocate live traps because what are you going to do when they're live? We've got to get rid of them. So at the end of the day, we're either going to have to kill them, and then where they go? Into the bin. Or we're going to have to drive miles away to release them, which is unfair on anybody else, because if you're releasing them several miles away, yes, they're not going to come back to you. That's your problem over with. But they're going to go somewhere else and they're going to be a pest to somebody else. Also remember, with rodents, they breed profusely. So one rodent can mean 100, can mean 1,000. It's that simple. So storage is, as I've said before, is a great asset. Now, what we don't want to do is get a glut of veg. There's nothing worse than having hundreds and hundreds of veg. What are we going to do with them? Yes, we're going to freeze them, we're going to store them, we're going to bottle them, etc. That's fine. But at some point, we run out of space. That's why I like to do succession growing. Okay, so it's now harvest time. So we're now going to pick the veg. So if we're succession growing, we're picking what we want that week. Yes, you'll have some going over to next week. and you may have some going over to that second week. But don't forget, because we've already started succession sowing, which is once every 2 weeks or once every month, we're going to have some followers. The excess we've got, before they go off, just store. It doesn't hurt to stick them in the fridge for a bit. We're going to use them. This is our idea, only growing what you want, of not growing what we're not going to eat. Preserving is a big subject. I will be showing you some of the preserving I do, and I'll show you also some of the different gins I do. Even though I don't drink, I like to make things like blackberry and apple gin, raspberry gin. That's really, even though I don't drink, it's really nice. And I'm going to show you how to make blueberry gin next week. So definitely that's the one to look out for in a week's time. I'm told it's very nice. It's also very good because with the fruit that you distill in the gin, you get some of the goodness into the gin from them. The minerals and the vitamins come out into the gin. So it can be, you can say I'm drinking this gin because it's healthy. Let's put it that way. Just how healthy it is depends on how much you drink. So bear that in mind. Once you start drinking it, with some of them, it can be, oh, I need to have another couple of these. Remember, you're redistilling it, you're re-fortifying it. So very often, gin which you've added fruit in is stronger than the gin you started with. I found that with a couple of gins I've made in the past, that when I've checked the alcohol level was more than the alcohol level that I started with in the gin, purely because of the fermentation and distillation of the fruit. So one to beware. But I'll show you next week how I do the gin. The other thing to do is compost. Now, because we're now peat free, compost is now beginning to go up in price. Also, I've found that a lot of composts now are not very good. I've tried several over the 23, and some of them, yeah, they're not bad. Others, it's supposed to be for seed sowing, and what happens? You've got a film across the top of the seed tray. The seed can't break through that film, it's too crusted. It's like having a pie crust. So to me, it's no good. What I have found, and I never used to be an advocate, I never used to buy it because I always thought it was too expensive, but John Innes, any of the John Innes, is built to a Pacific compost recipe. I find it very good. I use it for, I use the seed compost for growing all my seeds. It's got quite a nice little sort of sandy texture, and I find it really good. Seeds do well. I use the potting on compost, John Innes number 2. Those are the two ones I use, seed and number 2, John Innes potting compost. That I find is great for everything. I did my succulents last year, and wow, did they take off. Little succulents were like that, and now like that in 1 year. So I'm really, really pleased because I do like my succulents in the house. But I also find that the plants I've potted on out in the garden, that are in pots in the garden, have also done well. With compost, just because you've used it one season doesn't mean you've got to throw it away at the end of the season. What it means is that you've got choices. When you finish with it, now you can either spread it in the garden, in amongst the flowers, the ornamentals, or you can use it to help as a top mulch for the veg patch. Or, better still, empty it out somewhere, empty it as much as you can, that you're going to be getting rid of, or you were going to be getting rid of, because you're not going to be getting rid of it now. Get a bag of the same compost, mix it in, refortify it. Now you can use fertilizers to mix in with it. Personally, if I'm going to use a fertilizer, I use fish blood and bone meal. It's a more natural product, hasn't got so many added chemicals into it, whereas a chemical fertilizer is what it says. It's purely made from chemical. And as I've said, you know, with pesticides and herbicides, I personally don't want to use them, so I'm not going to use chemical fertilizers. But it's a personal choice, so you decide. Remember, winter is not a time that you need to stop gardening. There's still things that will grow in the winter. There's still things you can do. You've got broad beans to sow. You've got garlic. You've got onion to put out. You can use sets. If you don't want to use sets, then one of the traditional days to grow onion seeds is Boxing Day. But any time that you feel suits you. Just a little thing, if with growing seeds, if you've say to yourself, well, how can I grow seeds? I've got nowhere to grow them. Have we got some windowsills we can use? If so, you know, once they're sown, put them on the windowsill. If you want to keep them so they're moist before they get going, if you haven't got a incubator, germinator, then put a bit of cling film over the top of the tray or the top of the pot. That will lock in the moisture, that will get them going. So, you know, anything's possible. That's where imaginative comes in. Be as imaginative as you like. You never know, you may come up with something no one else has. Whatever you do, you know, let us know. You know, give us a comment. Tell us what you use to be as self-sufficient as possible. What you do. We all, in our own way, do some form of self-sufficiency without knowing it. And I say it's a vast subject. But over the coming next year, this year I should say, you'll see how I do my garden. You'll see how I'm self-sufficient as much as possible. You'll see how I reuse, I salvage, I repurpose. So, you know, as far as self-sufficiency is concerned, that's as much as I'm going to cover on this subject. I've been rattling on for too long. I'll take you and show you some other things. Well, it's still raining out there, so I thought I'd come back in and just give you an update what I'm sowing this month and things that you can sow this month, and then I think I'll close the video. It's been long enough. So this month I'm going to be sowing dill, broad beans, that's the aquadogs, a couple of sweet peppers. You need to get them done early. They take a long season, but they need at least 25 to 28 degrees of heat. So that's centigrade. So, you know, you need to know you've got that available. Either that or leave them till about sort of March, April time. Coriander, I'm sowing musselburgh leek, Killerton cabbage. I've not sown this one before, so I don't know much about it. Red ruble kale, which is, it looks quite a nice kale. Obviously the early Nance carrots, which is what I always grow. All year round cauliflower I'm getting started. Little gem, mescubin, salad leaves, douce Provence peas. I'm going to grow some pea shoots. Never grown them before, but I have tried some pea shoots and I do like them. These are from Simply Seeds, and it's they're 4019 and they're 4018 I'm growing. Everglade petal spinach, I'm going to grow some basil. Now, Simply Seeds has got some basil called British, and it's, from what I can find out about them, it's bred purely for the British climate. So I'm going to give it a go. And parsley, which has got to be the moss curled. Having said that, I'm going to say thank you for watching. If you like, please subscribe and give us a thumbs up. It does help to grow the channel. And I'll catch you next time. Be safe. Take care.